What is up, Preston Outdoors fans? And in this week's tackle tip video, we're going to talk about square bill crankbaits. Now, I don't have many square bills in my box, but here's two of them. This is a Storm Arashi square bill, and then this is a Rapala clack and crank. These are usually around the normal size you're going to throw a square bill. I also have a very large square bill. This is a Strike King square bill. I'm not even sure the size. This is a big one. It's silent, doesn't have any beads in it, goes up 7 feet. But what I want to talk to you about first is the different kind of bills for a square bill. The clack and crank Rapala clack and crank has this normal, what they call, I don't want to call it normal, original kind of style bill. It's a plastic bill. One of the things that Storms come out with and some other crankbaits is what they call a circuit board bill. It's thinner and it's not that clear plastic. Now, normally if I'm going to be throwing a square bill over the top of some cover, let's say it's shallow up there and it gets deeper and there's some vegetation, I'm going to throw this bait because this original or classic style bill makes the bait not just dive so deep right away and get to its optimal depth. It takes a little bit longer for it to get to the right depth. But if I'm fishing a clean bottom, I'm normally going to stick with a circuit board style crankbait because it gets down to the depth right away and allows it to deflect off cover. Now this is a Storm Arashi number 5, dives to 5 feet. Another cool thing about these Storm Arashi crankbaits is it's self-tuning line tie that tunes the bait itself as pertain to going left and right, and it does it all through the line tie itself. I don't have many square bills. Like I said, normally I'm not throwing a square bill over vegetation, but I found a couple instances last year where it was really working, so I picked up this clack and crank and, like, again, used the classic style bill. But 90% of the time, if I'm not around, if I'm square billing or cranking or anything like that, I'm around not a lot of vegetation but solid hard cover. Sometimes it's docks, most of the times it's rocks, but also can be around wood, and I'm going to be using the circuit board style. I really love these Storm Arashi square bills. The only thing about these are about $9 to $10 a piece, so they're really expensive, so I end up retying a lot so I don't lose these. Square bills are one of my favorite techniques to use in early spring and late fall. I also use it in the summertime, but again, this is where I really have a lot of fun doing it. And I get a lot of questions. Sorry for the wind noise. I get a lot of questions. A square bill? Why a square bill? Why not? It's classic to use a flat-sided crankbait during you know, the early cold water and late cold water in the fall. Early spring, you know, there's cold water. A flat-sided crankbait. Because, or like a minnow wrap or something with a really tight wobble. But I've also found that using a square bill with a very wide wobble also can get you a lot of bites. The trick that I use is I will throw it like this one right here. I will throw it without any rattles. Now this is the same Arashi square bill, just in the crawfish color. Now I found last year that I had more success fishing a wider wobbled bait in cold water with no rattles. I went down a stretch of bank and I threw, it was a cloudy day, so I threw this color. This one's got rattles, but the other one I have that's on my other rod doesn't have rattles on it. And I would slow roll that thing around and I would get bites. So then I thought, well, I want to use the rattling one too. I would take the rattling one and I go down another stretch of bank. I'd wind it, go all the way to the end of the bank. I wouldn't get a single bite. So then I'd go back and put this color on with no rattles on it, and I would catch fish. For me, I believe that this wobble, and I was fishing semi-stained water to kind of clear water. This wobble in this bait, or in a really wide swinging square bill, allows the fish to find it, but they weren't aggressive enough or really hunting a bait because it had the rattles in it. It's kind of like it was a reaction style bite. But me allowing them not to have, me not using the bait without rattles, allowed me to put it in front of the fish and them not be intimidated and scared by it. It's kind of like if I throw a tennis ball at you, you're either going to flinch, you're going to try and catch it, but most of the time you're going to move. It's the same thing with this bait when I was throwing it in front of these bass. Throw it right in front of them, they had to react to it, and most of the time their reaction was coming to hit it. I believe as the water warms up, necessarily, I mean, fish is going to need to eat no matter what the water temperature is. But it was around the low 40s, low to mid 40s, the water temperature. I found a square bill to be a very, very good cold water bait. When the water warms up, now I'm talking mid 50s to low 60s, somewhere in there, then I go back to the rattling one, because those fish are either staging up to spawn when they're aggressive or post spawn, depending on where you're at, and they're going to be hungry. They want something with a little rattle. I fished this in a tournament last year around flooded timber, and I could not get a strike during practice with the silent one, but I started throwing this one around. It was I want to say the beginning of June, or it was the end of May, actually, the end of May up here in North Dakota. I was throwing this around, got a lot of fish in wood. Then last fall we were fishing a tournament in October. Again, throwing around, it was on the same lake, throwing around on different wood piles and flooded timber, and I didn't get a single bite on the one without the rattles, but again, the one with the rattles prevailed, and I caught a 6-pounder during practice. Now, I didn't catch fish during the tournament, unfortunately, but I did catch a good-sized fish in practice with rattles. So again, if you're going to compare without rattles, with rattles, for me, I started to find and become more comfortable last year with colder water, less rattles, warmer water, and aggressive time of year. You want a rattling bait. Depends on water clarity also. Again, I was on a semi-murky, I don't even say murky, it was stained to somewhat clear. I was still throwing a non-rattled bait. I mean, if you're throwing muddy water and stuff like that, you're going to probably want to use rattles all the time. Just depends on your situation. But not very many people think of a square bill to be almost like a tube jig to where you can fish it early season, or a jerk bait. I almost fish a square bill the same time a year. When you're thinking about a jerk bait, I'm thinking about a square bill, again, without the rattles. So I hope you guys found something interesting. I hope you learned something new. Again, I'm always tweaking and learning, trying to learn different techniques, and the square bill thing is really, really something that opened my eyes last year in cold water situations. If you haven't already, please go check out my other Let's Talk About Tackle videos. We talked about a whole bunch of other stuff. We're just really going through this series, going through the boxes of my tackle and kind of talking about situations and stuff where I use them. And hopefully this week we'll be getting my boat back, and we're going to be getting all this tackle back in the boat, and there are going to be hopefully more fishing videos coming to you guys. I know you guys have been waiting for a while, and a lot of people have been asking about them. But next week we're going to continue this series. We're going to talk about jigs. I got a few different style jigs in my box. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about finesse jigs next week, and then the weeks after that we're going to go into different style jigs. But my jig box is one of my favorite boxes, and so I got different styles in there and stuff. So next week we're going to be talking about the finesse jig. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And tune in next time to Preston Outdoors.